my God. In the primaries, in the closed primaries of the Democratic Party in New York, are you kidding me? I'm telling you, man, lib voters, by and large, are not playing by the old rules anymore.
Socialists don't always win. Recently, in New York, though, a charismatic young socialist, supported by both DSA and working families, running on a platform of affordable housing, publicly owned grocery stores, and more mental health responders instead of cops, actually won the Democratic primary. In a firmly blue city, in a firmly blue state, that's usually the end of the story. But then, in November, India Walton lost the general election. Back in 2021, Buffalo, New York re-elected centrist Democrat Byron Brown as the mayor. After losing the primary to a DSA candidate, Buffalo's establishment freaked out. Millionaires, real estate moguls, Republican donors, all terrified by the prospect of a politician they hadn't completely bought and paid for running a major city, formed a united front basically overnight and swept Brown into office on a write-in campaign and a mountain of establishment money. Despite losing the Democratic nomination, Brown won the general. And there are a lot of reasons this upset happened. For starters, while Brown quickly got to work outspending India Walton and pretending he suddenly wasn't a Democrat after 30 years with the party, the top party brass like Chuck Schumer took their sweet time endorsing the candidate actually running on their ticket. Some, like Kathy Hochul, the governor of the state.
This is a comparison that I've brought up quite a bit in the primary, especially leading up to what might happen with Zohran, and then a concern that I raised right after Zohran's victory, if you recall.
Never even did. There was no vote blue no matter who mass mobilizing like we see every 4 years for the presidency. The party left Walton out to dry, and that meant that even though Brown was notoriously corrupt to the point the FBI was looking into his entourage, that poverty in Buffalo was going up, and that the racial wealth and homeownership gap was one of the worst in the country after 15 years of Brown being mayor, or even just the fact that he simply filed too late and couldn't legally be on the ballot, and so he needed help from the district judge, the brother of one of his top donors, none of that ultimately mattered. Buffalo got bombarded with Brown ads and door knockers and mailers. Meanwhile, Walton's life got put under the microscope. And the best the media could come up with, by the way, was that she did $300 worth of food stamp fraud at 21, 18 years before the election, didn't show up to court one time because her summons was sent to the wrong address, and at one point posted a, frankly, really good Facebook comment. Compared to a corrupt...
This is another reason. The broad positive reception for Zohran, in spite of similarities, is also another sign of the times. What I talked about in my Graham-Plattner analysis was this. While the establishment tricks remain, it seems that the voters have changed, partially due to the fact that those establishment tricks have consistently yielded failure after failure. It's been a long time. I do think now there is more momentum in this alternative.
A pro-oligarchy guy making life more expensive for regular Buffalonians and doing nothing about inequality and city water being a glorified lead distribution network. Come on. But the Buffalo elite wanted Brown. And Brown...
Dude, Byron Brown is such a piece of shit that he literally left halfway through the job after to go work for a casino that he literally ran specifically so that he ran as mayor specifically so that he can finish the gambling contract for the casino, and then left halfway through the job. Spoiler alert. I'm sure he's going to bring it up, but it's really fucked up.
Is what they got. On December 31st, he was sworn in and got an extra 3 years as mayor of New York's second largest city, until he resigned to be CEO of a horse betting company or something. But if it wasn't obvious already, this isn't a video about Buffalo. We're talking about Zohran. Zohran Mamdani is not running to be mayor of the second biggest city in New York. He is a candidate in the race for the biggest city in the country. The rich came for Walton's head in Buffalo, but Zohran's in the financial and cultural capital of the world. That's not gonna cut it. They're gonna need him to be obliterated. Before we get to the rest of the video, I want to take a quick second to do a shameless plug for our Patreon. If you're not interested or you're unable to support the channel, feel free to skip ahead to this timestamp. I'll get straight to the point. Content like ours is not rewarded by the YouTube algorithm. This is a corporate platform. We are outspokenly anti-corporate. Because of this, YouTube ad revenue represents a tiny and shrinking sliver of our channel's income. The vast majority comes from grassroots support on Patreon, from people who believe in our cause and are willing to directly fund Second Thought and keep us afloat. Because of the generosity of people like you, YouTube could completely demonetize our channel and we'd be able to keep producing these videos. That being said, people's financial situations change, and with how the economy is looking right now for the average person, the Patreon has definitely taken a hit. If you're in a position to chip in a few dollars a month to support the channel, we would greatly appreciate it. As a little show of that appreciation, every patron, regardless of pledge amount, gets early access to every video, plus access to our patrons-only Discord server. We've got everything from a book club to a recommended reading list to educated users ready to answer whatever questions you have about socialism. I even try to do a live Q&A every now and then. It's a really great place to hang out, and I hope you'll come check it out. So, if you'd like to support the channel, join the Discord, and get early access to every—
Maybe sometimes white boys can get hit with the Dominican ray and become good. JT has been hit with that Dominican ray, okay? And in the past, we just knew about Jeff Bezos getting hit with the Dominican ray. We saw Mark Zuckerberg get hit with it, and they became worse. Second Thought, on the other hand, has only gotten better.
Video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. Your support really does make a huge difference. Okay, back to the video. There is, I think, a real fear among the rich and powerful that a whisper of socialist success here could be a warning shot for their way of life everywhere. Just look at them freaking out. Our goal is anybody but Mamdani. Fighting Mamdani is expensive, but allowing him to win will cost you more. This tragedy is not just a moment of mourning, it's a call to reject policies that would make our city even more vulnerable. Every single one of his plans will hurt the very people that he thinks it will help. If he's the cure to what ails the party, then cyanide is the cure for a headache.
Look, it's blatantly obvious that the field needs to narrow or Mamdani will win. And I think that's a disaster for this city because we are the capital of capitalism and we need to remain that way.
Next week in New York, there's a chance that socialism could actually, finally win big electorally and make daily life for some 8 million working class people actually bearable.
Actually, Zohran Mamdani's not the first socialist mayor. I forget what his name is, but there was another openly socialist mayor of New York in the past. Also, many prior famous New York mayors, even though they didn't call themselves socialists, you could still consider to be quite open-minded towards social democratic expansion of safety nets, like Bill de Blasio and even LaGuardia. It was Bloomberg, I think. Yeah. Mayor Bloomberg was the first.
It's exciting, but there's just
social democracy is not socialism. Yeah, I know. Except nothing in Zohran's platform is socialist. Everything that Zohran is advocating for is modest expansion of pre-existing social safety nets.
this little voice in the back of my head that's scared because this story is looking just a little too similar to what we've seen before. A shock upset in the primary, a centrist with the worst track record still fighting after losing badly, top Democrats taking forever to endorse the winner or mobilize voters. Meanwhile, random dirt about petty bullshit like stolen tables and
David
college
Dinkins.
applications.
Thank you. Yes, it was David Dinkins.
Makes the rounds in the media. They are trying to run back the Walton strategy, but it's not going to work. And I think they know that, and I think that's making them more desperate. As of writing, just about every poll is showing a Zohran win. This one even shows what could happen if everyone but Sliwa, everyone but Adams, and everyone but Cuomo drops out and they all unite behind one guy. In every single hypothetical, Zohran comes out on top, no matter what everyone else does. We're editing this script after Adams dropped out for real, and still Zohran is in the lead. And then there's clips like these.
I was a bit hesitant actually to take this interview because I didn't want to be seen wearing this shirt. I don't particularly support Cuomo. I don't think he's a righteous guy. I think he's a bit of a morally reprehensible person. But for me, I think even though he's a bad guy, he's paying $200 a day. And even if it is like blood money from like billionaires and super PACs and, not righteous causes, a guy's gotta get money. I'm sorry.
So who do you support instead?
Personally, I kind of stand behind Zohran Mamdani.
I don't think anything, any poll, is going to explain how cooked everyone else is better than this. Actually, you don't even need a long explanation, just these 3 seconds. I think these clips, these polls, this primary, they prove something. Zohran showed Democrats that there is a path to victory, and that path is real working-class politics. From a guy that's actually invested and doesn't just talk about vague stuff like rising together.
So let's rise together.
Right after Trump's victory, Zohran showed us that he's ready to give average people real consideration and power. Going to places in New York that flipped red. He didn't stick to some consultant's script. He didn't appeal to vague positivity. He gave people the mic to talk about the stuff that actually matters to them. Rent, groceries, childcare, Gaza. But he didn't stop there. Instead of carrying a message of hope without substance, like so many Democrats do, Zohran's policies actually materially address people's problems.
I'm so glad I was there early on, because for years I've said, if you run a campaign like Zohran did, for years, I said, if you run a campaign like Zohran did, you will win. And for years, Democrats never listened to me. And now it's so easy. I could just point to Zohran. There it is. I gave it out for free. It was free ball, baby. Like I said, over and over again. Free ball. You don't know you, little bro? True. For a guy who don't know me, he's kind of stood by me more than I expected, I'll be honest. I thought he would have me by now.
Childcare is expensive. Rent is too high. Immigrant and LGBT rights are being stripped away. Here are the solutions. Easy to find, easier to understand. And all under a simple slogan. New York is too expensive. Zohran will fix that. With over 50,000 volunteers, 1.6 million doors knocked, and more votes than any other primary candidate ever, all this, it works. But for all that positivity, that voice in my head is still there because I sort of skipped over the biggest parallel with Buffalo. It's not the lack of party endorsements or the hit pieces that killed Walton's bid. The key to Brown's victory was the money. In just 4 months, Brown went from not really
Cuomo's career assassinating you at the mainstream media level to prevent more future Zohran-like candidate collabs in the future? Yeah, except because it's an abject failure. What does that show us? Also, I'm perfectly fine not linking up with candidates, Zohran or not. You kidding me? Oh no. What will I fucking do? The reality of the matter is, look, I don't flex too much. But like in a lot of circumstances, the candidates need me more than I need them, okay? A lot of you have no idea what kind of conversations take place behind closed doors. So let me tell you, Democrats are desperate to get on this platform for good reason.
Leading a campaign to raising $850,000, mostly from the rich and powerful. And when the general election came around, his sudden vote boost didn't come from working class neighborhoods, it came from the rich. And in New York, the anti-Zohran money isn't what's missing. It's coming from the same crowd we saw in Buffalo. Democratic cowards, Republican staples, and most predictably, the ultra-wealthy. Sometimes all at once. But the scale is just different. If $850,000 in 4 months in Buffalo sounds insane, New York's a whole different ballgame. You might have already seen the campaign finance statistics. Cuomo got about $5.3 million in donations, Adams nearly $7 million, and Mamdani almost $4 million. Big gaps and huge sums of money, but public matching has sort of evened things out. The difference, though, is that Zohran's campaign got to almost $4 million with 54,000 people donating. The other two can't even get to 10,000 donations. Their average contribution is in the hundreds of dollars and 10 times more than Mamdani's, meaning it's coming from people with a lot more money to spend. But that's not the freakout money. The freakout money isn't out in the open like this. It's in the new super PACs that keep popping up as the rich scramble for ways to shoot Mamdani down. You probably know this already, but super PACs are groups that can legally spend unlimited amounts of money on elections as long as they're not making direct contributions to a candidate and they aren't explicitly coordinating with the campaign.
Super PACs are a disaster. They're a scam. They cause dishonesty, and you better get rid of them.
The reason super PACs can spend unlimited money is because they can get unlimited money in donations, including from completely anonymous donors like 501c4s and 501c6s, what you might have heard called dark money nonprofits. These amounts aren't limited the way campaign donations are, with caps on individual donations and spending, which is why when you look at what a candidate gets, you see a lot of $2,100 donations. But when you look at what their super PAC gets, suddenly it's a wall of multi-million-dollar receipts. And that's a different scale. For the primary alone, for example, Cuomo spent $22 million through his super PAC, Fix the City.
Oh my God. And still took that L, baby. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters, and the Dempers out there, the centrist Democrats that still watch. It seems your time has passed. You might say, sure, Cuomo was an exceptionally vulnerable candidate, but the very fact that even a weak Cuomo could unseat a unknown 34-year-old Muslim socialist, oh my God, in the primaries, in the closed primaries of the Democratic Party in New York, are you kidding me? I'm telling you, man, lib voters, by and large, are not playing by the old rules anymore. This is good. They are no longer playing by the old rules. They're no longer as susceptible to the electability arguments, for example. Bro, always getting full? True.
This is an insane amount of money to have spent and still lose. But he's not done, and they're up to $27 million as of writing. Just to give you an idea, in the 2021 election, the most a super PAC had spent on the primary was $6.5 million. Already you have an idea of just how scared the rich are. The thing is, Fix the City is just one player in a sea of new PACs that are all attacking from different angles and courting the same donors. Take a random one. This guy, Jeffrey Gurl, a real estate investor. If you look at his donation record, you can see he gave Cuomo like a couple $100. Nothing crazy. That is, until you look at his donations to super PACs. This one guy gave 25 grand to Cuomo's PAC in the spring, and then another 25 grand to Adams in the fall. That's just one guy, and 25 grand is nothing. Cuomo got like 8.
Man, it's so crazy. I think anyone to the left of center that wins in spite of these odds is overcoming legendary hurdles, man. Yeah, I got a cheesecake. Look at that. I'm in New York, baby. New York City. Cheesecake capital of America. We got figs on the side too. I don't know why they wanted to get fancy with it. You will get fat. Interesting. Don't know what this is. Cheesecake's not that good. I'll be real. Eating dessert at 4 p.m. is crazy. Wait, what? Is there a time that is allowed? Is there a time where it's appropriate to eat a fucking dessert? Gatekeeping the timeline of when a man can consume a delicious dessert, a delicious piece of cheesecake is crazy, bro.
$8 million from Michael Bloomberg alone, another $1 million from DoorDash, and then just pages of $500K to $50K, $100K donations. Let's zoom back out. Right now, there's at least 7 big super PACs on the anti-Mamdani train. For Cuomo, we've mentioned them already. You have Fix the City, but also Local Economies Forward NY, which is basically just DoorDash's separate PAC, and Housing for All, a super PAC that's just for landlords. Before he dropped out, Adams had Empower NYC and Protect the Protectors. Both of them are expected to have raised millions. Empower specifically has said they're hoping for 15. And then on top of that, there's the general anti-Zohran super PACs not affiliated with a single candidate, like Affordable New York, which is Airbnb's super PAC, and New Yorkers for a Better Future, who said they'll spend an extra $20 million against Zohran and are already raking in $500,000 donation pledges. I'm explaining campaign donations to Americans right now, and literally the rich guy is called Mr. Burger. But don't worry, hey, Mamdani has his own super PACs too. One has yet to report raising any funds, and the other has gotten a whole 700K since the primary. Not rigged at all. It's bad, but at the end of the day, I don't actually think that all this anti-Zohran money is going to be enough. He's popular. His policies are popular, and that shouldn't be surprising.
The point that he brought up on the Andrew Schultz pod, Flagrant, was so good. And it's one that I think about all the time with any kind of left initiative. Zohran said, Bill Ackman and billionaires are wasting more money against me on this election than I would actually tax them, right? And what's really interesting about that is this is something that moneyed interest does, right? Instead of offering a modest pay raise in the aftermath of collective bargaining that takes place because a workplace unionized, companies would rather dump 10x that money in the short term to labor union busting law firms just so they can nip this in the bud because they see it as a long-term threat. In this instance, billionaires are scared that the finance capital could be controlled by a socialist. What does that say about other places? It makes them fearful that if Zohran is popular and successful and wins the race, other people are also going to run. That it could inspire others to also do the same. It's this.
Those little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
As far as the whole movie, this is the most formative piece of anti-capitalist work. Okay? Throw away, burn your copies of Das Kapital. Okay? No more Lenin, no more Marx, no more Engels, no more Trotsky. It's just a bug's life. Okay? The Lego movie. Anyway.
Popular politicians in the country are socialists. I don't think he's got this in the bag, but it's not like this money's doing much. And that is scary in a different way. If Cuomo loses at the polls, after the rich threw everything they could at the wall, he could go for the nuclear option.
Zohran Mamdani, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mamdani?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation.
All semblance of democracy is gone anyway. Trump said he'd get involved in the race if it looks like Mamdani will win. He's already threatened to arrest, deport, and denaturalize him. He wanted Cuomo or Adams. Either. I don't think he cares. They're both getting money from his donors anyway. He personally stepped in to get Adams cleared of federal corruption charges and is taking calls with Cuomo, who he's had a long-standing relationship with for decades. They're tight.
He also slammed him with a fucking DOJ case so he can dangle his freedom over his head in the same exact one-to-one way that the previous criminal indictment against Eric Adams was utilized by this admin, okay? It's so transparent. It's not like these guys are dick riding Cuomo. They want him to win because they don't want Zohran to win. They want him to win. They want Cuomo to win because they can control Cuomo in the same way that they controlled Adams.
While neither of them wanted his endorsement in a city of Democrats, they both get that this is a transactional relationship. They're representing the people scared of Zohran and telling Trump what he wants to hear to get rid of him. That they want to work together, and they wouldn't really get in the way of ICE taking over the city. They're not saying that to us, of course. Voters are getting a centrist-friendly message, that Trump is going just a little too far. But at business meetings and in these private calls, they're making sure that Trump knows they won't put up a fight. With Adams gone, Cuomo is playing his part in the fascist takeover. Capitalists want to stay in power. They're spending like their life depends on it. And until recently, they had 2 guys willing to let Trump run wild on a city of 3 million immigrants. That doesn't matter to them. It just means they keep their taxes low and city rents up. And look, I don't know how this election will go, and I don't know if Zohran's going to be able to get all this great stuff, all these things that he's promised, done if he wins. I do know that there's still a strong candidate for head fascist lackey in the race. A guy who is more than ready to make New York yet another hellscape for immigrants, for working class people, and for everyone else whose rights are being stripped away. A guy cozying up to landlords and Wall Street and Trump, and ready to completely fold while more and more people are thrown in the back of a van and shipped off to some black site on the other side of the world. This is cheesy, but if you live in New York and you haven't voted early, make sure you get out there. Winning the...
Wow, why is this... This guy's betraying the Leninist revolutionary sentiment. I thought this guy was a tanky, unsubbed.
I come from our...
I thought that guy was a tanky, unsubbing now. Okay? Unsubbing now. You understand? He has betrayed the revolution by endorsing phony-ass Zohran Mamdani. He's clearly a filthy revisionist. He is clearly a filthy revisionist. He is no longer abiding by Marxist orthodoxy. Everyone knows that the purest distillation of Marxist-Leninist principles is to avoid elections entirely, is to avoid the mass movements entirely. Okay? You're joking, but it's true. I'm not.